Imagine walking into a bank dressed in your finest, armed with $1 billion contract in your briefcase, and instead of respect, you're met with sneers, suspicion, and your ID tossed onto the ground like trashel because you're a black woman. What happened next didn't just silence a whole bank, it sent shockwaves through boardrooms, media networks, and Wall Street itself. You won't believe who she really was and what she did in return. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a jaw-dropping story like this again, because what you're about to hear will change how you see power, prejudice, and payback. It was a sunny Thursday morning in Manhattan, the kind where even the air felt expensive. High-end heels clicked across marble floors. Stock tickers flashed on the TV screens overhead, and investment bankers downed espressos like lifeblood. Into this world walked Ava Jameson, dressed not just for success, but for war. A perfectly tailored, navy blue pantsuit wrapped around her graceful frame. Her natural curls were pulled back into a slick, low bun, and her designer bag, clutched in one hand, contained the Futura $3 billion partnership contract from a European tech conglomerate, ready to invest in Ava's clean energy startup, Nova Futura. Ava was a rising force in renewable energy, a black woman CEO on Forbes' radar. Harvard graduate and survivor of every glass ceiling corporate America tried to drop on her. But none of that mattered the moment she stepped into Prestige Bank and Trust. As she approached the teller's desk, a young man named Bryce barely looked up. "Are you here for a job application?" he asked casually. Ava tilted her head, her smile measured. "No, I'm here to authorize a wire transfer." Bryce's eyes traveled over her, lingering on her skin, her features. He raised an eyebrow. "From which account?" Ava handed him her ID. "That's when it happened," he scoffed, visibly rolled his eyes, and with a flick of the wrist, tossed her ID to the marble floor. It skidded across the floor like trash. "Nice try. You people don't just waltz in here claiming CEO accounts. This isn't a joke," he said loud enough for two other employees to look up. The entire room fell silent. Ava bent down slowly, picked up her ID, and stared at him. The pause was thick. Charged, "I'm going to give you one chance to apologize," she said calmly. But Bryce just chuckled. "Go ahead, call your manager. Maybe she'll bring you an application too." Ava didn't respond. She simply picked up her phone, pressed a contact labeled James H. J.P. Morgan Legal, and walked away without another word. Forever, within 48 hours, Prestige Bank's boardroom went from polished quiet to chaotic firestorm. Ava had stayed quiet publicly. No tweets, no interviews, not even a legal threat, just silence. But in the background, her silence roared. Calls she made. James Harlow wasn't just a legal contact. He was the senior compliance officer for the European tech firm about to invest $3 billion into Nova Futura and Prestige Bank. They were set to be the financial facilitator for that partnership. Within 24 hours of Ava's incident, James contacted the Europeans, who immediately halted the contract pending internal equity reviews. That was corporate speak, for we heard someone messed up bad. Simultaneously, Ava's private legal team initiated a formal misconduct report to the FDIC, the bank's internal HR, and the board of directors. Bryce, he was still clueless. He thought she left humiliated. "Another wannabe caught pretending," he said smugly to his coworker. Meanwhile, the board had just reviewed the surveillance footage and recognized Ava instantly. She wasn't just an ECO, she was the keynote speaker at the last UN Climate Tech Conference and had personally advised 2 U.S. senators. When Bryce was called into the conference room the next morning, he walked in cocky, only to find a projector playing the footage of him flinging her ID onto the ground frame by frame. "Do you know who that woman is?" the HR director asked. "Scammer?" He replied weakly. "No. That's Ava Jameson." and she just pulled $3 billion from our future. Bryce was terminated on the spot. But Ava still hadn't said a word publicly until the weekend. That Saturday, Ava uploaded a LinkedIn post. It had one image, her ID on the bank floor. Caption: "Sometimes silence costs more than words. Prestige Bank won't be handling Nova Futura's funds. Neither will any bank that tolerates disrespect rooted in bias." The post went viral in hours. Within a day, every major outlet was calling. Not just for the story, but to offer Ava better partnerships, more funding, and global stage appearances. Meanwhile, Prestige's stock dipped. Then it cratered. The $3 billion clapback beat Monday morning. Nova Futura held a press conference announcing their new financial partnership with Barclays UK. Not only was the partnership intact, it had grown to $4.2 billion after news of the incident triggered a wave of support from other investors. Ava stood at the podium in a bright white suit, unapologetically radiant. "This isn't about vengeance," she said. "It's about value. When you treat people like less, you lose value." That's a principle every boardroom should remember. Journalists clapped. Shareholders watched. But back in the offices of Prestige Bank, chaos raged. Investors were pulling out. The PR team was in full meltdown mode. The CEO, William Crampton, released a video apology online, claiming deep remorse and promising equity training. But the damage was done. Bryce's actions had already been shared across every diversity training session, HR board, and business ethics course in the country. Employees whispered that the bank had become a case study in corporate failure, and Ava, she was offered a private meeting with the president to advise on small business equity legislation. She agreed on one condition: let's start by funding women-led startups that never get a seat at the table. Her influence doubled overnight. She bought 2 penthouses in Tribeca, not out of vanity, but to hold investment salons for underfunded entrepreneurs. She turned the insult into empire. As for Bryce, he tried to get another banking job. No one would touch him. His resume became radioactive. Eventually, he moved back home to Georgia and started a blog titled Redemption. My side of the story, but it never took off. Ava's silence had spoken louder than his outrage ever 2 years later. Ava was named one of Time's 100 most influential people. At the ceremony, the host recounted her story and said, "When the world tried to make her feel small, she showed them how big dignity can be." Her company had gone public at a record-breaking IPO, and she launched the Rise Again Foundation, a $500 million initiative to back minority entrepreneurs across America. Meanwhile, Prestige Bank was quietly acquired by a competitor after losing too many high-profile clients. The building where Bryce once worked was turned into a cope. But what truly stunned everyone was what Ava did next. She bought a minority stake in that very bank's parent company, just enough to sit on their board. When asked why, she replied, "Because the best way to change the system isn't to burn the table, it's to own the table and decide who eats." During her first board meeting, the new CEO nervously welcomed her and asked if she had anything to say. Ava opened her briefcase, pulled out her ID, the same one Bryce had thrown, and placed it gently on the table. Let this be the last time someone with this face has to explain her worth. Everyone in the room was silent, not out of shame, but out of awe. The once dismissed black woman CEO now owned the very space that once tried to erase her. And to every girl watching at home, Ava became more than a story. She became a roadmap, powerfully composed, unapologetically black, and undeniably victorious.